Welcome to Lead Pods, the official leadership podcast from USMB for pastors and church leaders, where our goal is to increase our impact together.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to episode 43 of the USMB Lead Pods. My name is Matt Ersman, and today I will be introducing you, if you don't know him yet, to President David Janzen, the new president over there at Tabor College. And if you've been listening to the show for a while, you know that myself, as well as JL Martin, who also helps out with the show quite a bit, both of us went to Sterling, which is one of Tabor's main rivals. So this conversation just pains me because I actually really like President Janzen. Had a great conversation with him, and it sounds like he's got a lot of great plans for the future of Tabor. It seems like his personality fits in really well with the campus of where they currently are, but as well as where they're headed. So if you haven't got a chance to meet President Janzen yet, I think you'll be really impressed with this conversation. Again, both with his background, he's done some really cool things, as well as where he is taking things from here. So whether you're a Tabor grad or not, I think you'll really enjoy hearing from President Janzen. So let's not take any more time. Let's take a quick break from a word from our sponsor and get right to Tabor's new president, President David Janzen.
Superintendents and principals are finding that trauma-responsive education is a major deficit and need right now in American schools. Tabor's graduates of the Masters of Education in Neuroscience and Trauma degree will be able to respond to this need and serve all students who face difficult life challenges. Learn more at tabor.edu/online.
Okay, friends. Well, today I'm joined by President David Janzen, the newest president of Tabor College. I just warned President Janzen that I'm a Sterling alum. I'm a hardcore Sterling guy, so I'll try to be nice, but some Sterling Tabor jabs might just work their way into this conversation. But President Janzen, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, Matt. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to get to know you a little bit. So we, of course, just want to introduce you to the USMB family for people who haven't got a chance to know you yet. The Christian Leader has done a good job. They published quite a few articles about your background and your process of coming to Tabor. So I encourage people to check those out if they missed them. But let's just get started. For people who haven't met you yet, why don't you tell us more about you? How did you land at Tabor the first time? Any background that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, how did I land at Tabor the first time? So you mean way back in 1986 when I came as a first-year student at Tabor College?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So my last couple of years of high school, I went to Oklahoma Bible Academy in Enid, Oklahoma. I'd lived in southeastern Kansas before that. And as I was finishing up high school, I really liked academics. I did real well on my test scores, ACT scores, and I was looking at Ivy League schools. I thought, I'm going to go some big school. And one of the key differences was I got these form kind of institutional letters from those schools, but Tabor, I got personal connections. The math professor, Frank Brenneman, reached out to me individually, and I could tell that I was going to be more than just a number there. I was going to be given personal attention, and that really drew me in to Tabor. I had long family history with Tabor. My parents had gone there. My older sister had gone there. My grandfather had gone to Tabor. So it was definitely on the radar. I knew a fair amount about it.
So I've heard from people who are in your shoes where, especially if it's really ingrained in your family, some people love that and it's kind of a no-brainer. They're for sure going to go there. And some people kind of not rebel, but they kind of don't want to do that just because that's kind of what's expected. Did you wrestle with that at all?
Absolutely. Because my older sister was there, I thought, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to take my own path, be independent. And so that's why I was drawn to looking at other schools. In the end, like the story that I just told, I got drawn in to Tabor. And once I arrived, all of that rebellion, all of looking other places just completely disappeared. I got enveloped into the community here very quickly and just sensed right away this is the right place for me. And I had the good opportunity that a couple of my friends from high school also came here. And so I had this great balance of I knew a couple of people, but I also got to meet all sorts of new people from all sorts of different areas. And so it was a great balance for me.
Yeah, cool. And while you were a student, you studied math and computer science, right? And I think you also did some athletics. What were you like? What was Tabor student David Janzen like?
Tabor student David Janzen. Well, people would probably say that he was pretty studious, pretty ambitious, somewhat outgoing. I I loved to do things. I had a lot of energy and I was involved in a lot. I liked intellectual challenge. And so I loved the math major, and I didn't really know that much about the computing thing. It wasn't on my radar. I thought I was going to be a math teacher, but I was encouraged to try out a computer science course and ended up loving that as well. I did play soccer my first year and even came on some scholarship, but I pretty quickly found out that I wasn't big enough or fast enough or strong enough to really excel there. I could have made it. I could have played all 4 years, but I had to make some choices. I was also involved in in band and in choir, and started to get involved in just campus ministries. And so you can only do so much. Mm-hmm. And when I had to decide, okay, what am I going to cut? Soccer was something I was probably least good at and took the most time. So that I ended up dropping that after 1 year, but really enjoyed so many other activities while I was here. And I got to do a lot of fun stuff. I did a study abroad while I was a student, went to Budapest, Hungary, and I spent a couple of summers teaching water skiing in New Hampshire. And that was pretty fun. Yeah. That was, the motivation there was to have a little adventure, but mostly to get outside of a Christian bubble and see, is my faith real in a non-Christian environment? And so that was really a strong experience for me.
I know that one of the reasons I chose Sterling, no offense, but it's very similar to Tabor in a lot of ways, kind of like what you're saying. A student can play soccer, sing in the choir, be a good student. Like these kind of small liberal arts colleges give those kind of opportunities. Is that one of the main things that drew you? And is that still something that you're really passionate about now in your role?
Yeah, I love that word, opportunity. A small college like Tabor does provide so much opportunity. And I guess I'm disappointed if a student comes and doesn't take advantage of that. But a small Christian college, you can do a lot of things. And usually the problem is narrowing down what all you're going to get involved in, because again, there's only so many hours in a day. But you can be in the choir, you can be in a theater performance, you can be in student government, you can be in athletics, all sorts of things. You can do undergraduate research with the professor. Just lots of opportunity. Yeah.
Okay. So your wife, Karen, also went to Tabor, and I understand, I think both of your parents went to Tabor. Both of her parents went to Tabor. So she was also just kind of ingrained in all this. So I guess, did you guys meet when you were both students?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. She had a similar kind of a legacy with Tabor. Her older brothers also had gone. She came from California. I came from Oklahoma and Kansas. And she was only there at Tabor for 2 years. We knew each other a little bit at the beginning. I probably knew her roommate better. We were good friends. And then towards the end of our sophomore year, we were on choir tour going to California, 2-week bus tour from Kansas to California. And we happened to sit next to each other early on that trip and just talked the whole day and really hit it off and got to know each other well. And sure enough, about every day of that trip, we sat next to each other. And that's when I would say we fell in love. She had already made plans to go to Fresno Pacific the next year. And she was studying, was changing from piano performance to choral conducting, and was going to go to FPU. And so she did that. And at the time I said, long distance relationships don't work. And so I thought we cut it off. Well, it took us 5 years to figure it out before we did get married. We both went off, finished our degrees and did master's degrees, and then met again, and finally figured out we were the right match.
Very cool. Okay. I want to move to your post Tabor days, but one more question. You've been in this position since July 1st. So you're still relatively new. I read 3 articles about you. There's probably many more where you get asked all the same questions. So I want to get some dirt. So surely you did some pranks, or there's got to be some story about your days at Tabor that you haven't told anybody else. Do you have anything like that you're willing to share with us today?
Oh, that's a hard question. Dirt. Nobody wants to expose any dirt they might have.
Or just a fun story, a good memory.
Yeah. I did love the pranks that were done at Tabor. I was never a big prankster myself. So here's a story for you. While I was at Tabor, they put in the sand volleyball court,
Okay.
And we had the first ever sand volleyball, 2-on-2 volleyball tournament. And Troy Reimer was a friend of mine, and he was over 6 feet tall. I'm not that tall. I could serve and I could set, and he could spike the ball. And so we won the first ever sand volleyball tournament at Tabor. So that's a claim to fame that I have. The next year he found a better partner and he won again, and I didn't. So obviously Troy was the important part of the duo there.
Very good. Okay. Well, I was hoping for something a little more scandalous, but I guess I'll take that. So that's good. Okay. So you graduated in 1990, I believe, right? So walk us through what was next after that in your life.
Yeah. So I got accepted to graduate school, but then I decided to take 6 months off, and I traveled with Harvest Crew, which was a Tabor music and drama group that went through the summers and into the fall. And that was really a fantastic experience. It was kind of a way of giving back to Tabor for the great experience and all the investment they had given to me, but also traveling and getting to know the churches. And so I was in so many MB churches all the way up, through North Dakota and Montana and out to the West Coast and down south. And we went to a lot of camps in the summer. And so junior high school camps, that was really a fun experience. And then in January following that, I started graduate school at University of Kansas. I started in mathematics, thinking still I was going to go get a PhD in math and teach math. But I took 2 math courses, one computer science course. It was a very theoretical mathematical computer science course, but it was my favorite. And I ended up switching to computer science then and doing a master's in computer science in the next couple of years.
So I don't know the order of things, but I'm interested in you got involved in some kind of app development, right? Can you tell me about Squid and how did that all happen?
Yeah, so that was more recent in the time. If we jump forward quite a bit, I'd worked in industry and then taught for a while, went back and did my PhD. And then 15 years ago, I landed in San Luis Obispo at Cal Poly, and I was hired as their first dedicated software engineering faculty. And I was teaching the capstone there. And then in 2008, the iPhone came out, and that was a big deal. Mm-hmm. And then in 2009, the Android device, Google came out with Android devices, and I had this crazy idea to be the first university in the world to teach an Android course. And I believe we were, or there were a couple others that were maybe starting the same time we were. Got a grant from Google and a bunch of original phones. And I challenged students in that class. We were about 35 students in the class. I said, now's an opportunity to do something entrepreneurial or humanitarian. And most of them did an entrepreneurial app. And I think we had 6 companies start out of that class of 35 students.
That's cool.
Which was really cool. And one of those companies went on, I worked with them for their senior project. And then 6 months after they graduated, they were acquired by Google. And so I had all these students coming saying, do that for me, wanting me to help them start an app. Well, one of the students that had been in that first class was working on an app. He called it Papyrus, a handwriting note-taking app for Android devices. And I was just helping him like I helped a lot of students, just starting the company, giving a lot of advice, helping him with some technical things, helping him with some business and marketing kinds of things, navigating this new app world. And after a while, he said, I need more than just advice. I need a partner. And I turned him down like 5 times and said, I've got a full-time job. I've got ministry I'm doing. I don't have time to also do a company. And finally, he convinced me, join me in this. And I'd worked with him from the beginning. And so I joined him. We formed a company that was 10 years ago now already.
Wow.
And the company is still going and doing very well.
Very cool. So what does Squid do?
Squid is a handwriting note-taking app. So if you have a device like a Samsung Note device that has a pen, or a Chromebook that has a touch screen and a pen, and a lot of schools will use that. Well, one of the primary things you expect to be able to do with a pen is to handwrite, just like you would on paper and pencil. And so we're an app for handwriting. So whether you're taking notes in a meeting or in class, or you can import PDFs. So like a 4th grader in school might be doing a math worksheet, doing it with a pen. Some things are really hard to do with a keyboard, like exponents or drawing graphs,
Yeah.
doing science or doing art, even some social studies things. And so we really fill that gap for handwriting in the classroom, as well as we have a lot of business people that use it. College students that are in science and engineering, especially, they use the app. We call it Squid because squids are cephalopods and they produce ink. And so it's an inking software. That's where the name came from.
Well, I could geek out with you about apps and Google stuff, but we'll progress forward here to get to the Tabor stuff again. So we're skipping big parts of your life. You've got 4 kids, right?
That's right. Yeah. They're real close in age, between 22 and 25.
Okay, awesome. And then before coming back to Tabor, you were at Cal Poly, is that right?
That's right. For 15 years. Lived in Morro Bay. Cal Poly's in San Luis Obispo in Central Coast of California.
So I'm guessing you were at least sort of in the know about what was going on at Tabor. President Janzen was kind of winding his time down. What made you think, oh, this might be something I'm interested in? How did that journey start for you?
Yeah, that was a very interesting story from our perspective. My wife and I, last year, so in the summer of 2020, life was just too busy. My academic work was very full. I was doing research. I was leading a software engineering program. I was running a company. I was doing ministry in our church and doing ministry on campus. And my father passed away, and so I was helping to shut down the farm and sell his business. And we just knew something had to give. We needed to slow down a little bit. And this is in the middle of COVID. Everything had gone to online teaching. And at the beginning of that academic year, around September, Cal Poly offered an early retirement program, thinking they were going to need to lay off people because of COVID and down enrollment. And my wife and I prayed through that and thought, this is not what we expected to leave Cal Poly. When we thought slowing down, we thought maybe that would be selling the company or something different. But the more we prayed about it, the more we saw God was in that. And so in October, we accepted that and announced that we were going to be leaving Cal Poly, not knowing what was next.
Okay.
And a week later is when Jules Glanzer announced his retirement.
Okay.
And we had a friend send a text message saying, just saw this today that President Glanzer is leaving. I think you should be the next president of Tabor. And I think I offended this friend, and I kind of laughed it off and said, no way, cannot see that happening. And so it was very much a surprise. But then, I don't know, about a month later, I got a call from the chair of the board of directors at Tabor, just saying my name had come up several times, and what was I doing? Who was I? Would I consider applying for the presidency? And so then it started to get real. And my wife and I thought, well, maybe God could be in this. It's not what we had planned or aspired to. And so we just started praying and trying to discern if God might be in it. And it wasn't very long. And we sensed a strong calling that this is, if God was going to present this opportunity, that we had to do it, that we believed it was his will and that he was in it. And so I went ahead and applied and went through the process, the whole time fully believing it was God's calling, and yet really doubting that they would actually choose me. And so clear up till the very end, I kept thinking, oh, they're looking for someone who's been a pastor, or they're looking for someone who's, been a senior administrator in a private Christian higher education institution. I hadn't been any of those things, but they discerned that I was the right fit. And at first I was a little surprised, but the longer I'm in the position, the more I realize, oh, this is why God took me through that interesting journey that he did, going through academia and going through business and entrepreneurship and bringing me to this place. I see where all of those experiences are really helpful in where Tabor is right now and the ministry and the vision of where we're going.
I can see how your experience that you have would be super helpful, but it sounds like college president wasn't on your radar at all, or at least not very much. So what about it? When you started getting those phone calls, were you like, no way? Or did it kind of lean in a little bit and you're like, oh, I could see how I could enjoy this? Or What about it kind of appealed to you?
Well, there were two aspects of it. There was a lot of that. No way, that's a hard job. I don't see myself doing that. I haven't been, carefully crafting my career to prepare for that job. So it did seem like a no way. But we had numerous experiences in the past where an opportunity had come up kind of out of the blue, like this one, and we had prayed about it and discerned that God was in that opportunity, and it took us a different direction, like leaving industry and going to teaching, cutting my salary in half, and to go and be a professor. And at first, it just didn't make sense by conventional wisdom, but after a few years, we looked back and said, absolutely, God was in this. This was the right thing. It's better than we ever expected it would be. And so we'd had that preparation of sometimes God leads you on a direction that wasn't your plan. Like man makes his plans, but God directs his steps. Yeah. We definitely saw that happening in our life. What drew us to the position, the presidency at Tabor, I think one of the big things was, well, first off, we had rekindled a love for Christian higher education. I had gone to Cal Poly. I felt very much like God was leading us to be tent makers, to be missionaries in a dark place in the public university system. And that was a very effective and fruitful ministry, and we enjoyed that very much. But the last few years that we were there, I started to get a rekindling for the importance of Christian higher education. And partly I was seeing that some of these really good Christian colleges were struggling to hire faculty, good, solid Christian faculty that were also really good in their discipline. Yeah. And, and like in computer science, that was true at all schools. We struggled to hire. And so, of course, they were struggling. I thought, we definitely need to make sure that the Christian schools have great faculty. Mm-hmm. And then out of the overflow, we'll send missionaries to the public schools. That's part of the vision that I started to sense. So I had this rekindling of Christian higher education. Westmont College in Santa Barbara had been approaching me about coming and teaching there potentially, and that was also a part of that discernment, starting to think more about Christian higher education.
Okay. So I'm sure you put a lot of thought into this, and this is a question I'm sure you've answered a bunch of times, but what are some of your goals? What's your vision? What do you hope to accomplish under your presidency? Just a really, quick, easy question.
Quick, easy question. Yeah. I've been thinking a lot about this, of course, and a lot of things are already in motion. And one of the great things is many of the ideas that I came in with, there was such a warm and receptive spirit at Tabor. They were ready for these ideas and had even already started doing some of them. Maybe in a priority order, perhaps, number one is the spiritual life. There really has to be a leaning into a strong spiritual commitment and spiritual formation amongst our students. And I'm just so excited to see that that's happening. Tabor is what I call a critical mass Christian college, as opposed to a covenantal Christian college. So at some schools, like Biola, you sign that I'm a Christian, and everyone who comes declares they're a Christian. At Tabor, we're critical mass, meaning that a supermajority of our students we want to have as Christians, coming in, wanting the Christian college experience, wanting the Bible classes, wanting to go to chapel, wanting to grow in their faith. And then a smaller percentage of the students come knowing it's a Christian school, but maybe not being a Christian themselves, respecting it. And it provides an opportunity for sharing the gospel with those students, and for all of the students growing in their spiritual walk. And we're seeing that. And I'm so excited about that. We just had the Multiply Vision Summit was happening this week, and we had 10 students make first-time commitments to Jesus Christ this week. And there had been several others earlier in the semester that had made first-time commitments. And so there is that opportunity of evangelism. But we have, a super majority of our students that are already Christians and are really growing in their faith. So kind of the long answer to the first one is spiritual life needs to be vibrant, and we have to stay true to our mission of Christian, authentic, Bible-based Christian higher education. A couple of other things. Academic excellence is something I'm really leaning into, and we just want to make sure everything we do is with excellence. And we're a college, and so we are about teaching classes and programs and majors and preparing students to go into the world, into vocations, and we want to do that with excellence. And I see a lot of that is happening already. We want to continue it. I've been talking about raising the bar. We want to celebrate the accomplishments we've already had, but then raise the bar and keep striving for better. And so we're leaning into the academic excellence. A third area that I'm real excited about, I've talked a little bit about entrepreneurship, and I helped a lot of students and community members start companies in San Luis Obispo. And I think there's a real opportunity for doing that at Tabor College. And I was so delighted to see some of that was already happening. We've got some faculty here who are very entrepreneurial minded and students that are really excited about it and motivated in those areas. I think we can do some much bigger, more impactful things, and it's very missional. Small businesses in general are closing all the time. We definitely saw that with COVID. Mm-hmm. If we don't keep starting new businesses, there won't be jobs for people, and there won't be products and services provided. And so I think college is a great time when we can think about taking risks and learning how to start a business, and what does it take to do the marketing and the incorporation or the different formation, the legal side of things, and building products or whatever it may be. And there's a missional aspect to that. When we create a company, we can set a culture, and we can hire people, and we can share the gospel with them. And we can take jobs with us as we go out into maybe rural communities or different places where we can go and do ministry. And we don't have to only go where the jobs are. We can bring the job or create the job there. And then third, all around the world, there's a lot of places where you can't go as a traditional missionary anymore to those countries, but you can go as maybe an educator or starting a business or bringing a business in or doing economic development there. So I think there's a lot of missional opportunities in. So those are three aspects that I'm really excited about.
Yeah, that's good. I like those a lot. So going back to the faith aspect, I'm curious your perspective. So at a Christian school, obviously, like at Tabor, I know chapels are required. I'm guessing there's some Bible studies. The sports teams might pray, or there's probably a lot of ways that faith is kind of interspersed through every aspect of Tabor. So how do you have an idea what's like the most effective way to help students actually grow in their faith? Is chapel kind of the main component? Is it the academic classroom? Is it incorporated in the classroom, or how do you see that actually playing out?
All of the above. You're exactly right. I think chapel is an important aspect, and students are required to go to a certain number of chapels, and we have some great speakers, and some that we bring in from outside, some that are just from here within our community and from on campus. And that is effective for just getting people thinking about it. People who might not voluntarily go and have a spiritual conversation, it's really good for prompting those ideas. We also have SP&D is a Wednesday night student-led voluntary worship night, and it is bursting at the seams. It meets in the old historic church on campus, and it's packed. And so that's really exciting to see that students are coming because they want to come, and they're leading in worship, and they're speaking to each other. And there's Bible studies that are happening on campus that are student-led. But there's the other aspects I think are really important. Having faculty and staff who love the Lord and have authentic faith relationships with Jesus Christ, that they're walking out, that they're speaking into the lives of students, they're discipling students, and whether it's during office hours or certainly in classes, integrating these concepts into the coursework, integrating faith with whatever your discipline might be. Those are all things that also foster this community of focusing on your spiritual life and growing in that way. I see a lot of mentorship and discipleship happening already, and I really want to encourage that continuing. And that can be student to student, faculty to student, faculty to faculty. It happens in many different ways, and that's very exciting to see.
Yeah. So then on the, I guess, academic or just college in general, one thing that's in the news all the time, it's just in a lot of conversations, is just the cost of college, and private college is expensive. And so I'm guessing, assuming that you're in your role for a long time, which I hope you are, this will be something that will continue to come up. there's all these rumors that, there might be free college within the next, I don't know, few decades or whatever. How do you see that playing out, and how does that affect Tabor? Have you put some thought to that?
Yeah, I put a lot of thought into it. Even though we are a ministry and a nonprofit, it's a business, and we need to watch our budget and be careful with expenses, and it is a business. Our product we advertise, and students come and they buy the product essentially.
Yeah.
And so it's challenging because there is a lot of competition. We do compete with state universities and community colleges that are federally and state funded. Yep. And we don't have any of that. And so that's a big challenge, as well as there are a lot of other Christian colleges out there, a very different variety of, Christian. Mm-hmm. And so we distinguish ourselves in what's unique to Tabor. But we need to be competitive in the scholarships that we offer and in the price. We can't be significantly more expensive than others, like Sterling College, where you went. They're a competitor. And they're a great school, and so that keeps us in check and helps keep the cost of college down to a certain extent. But it is expensive to provide all of the residence halls and all the salaries for faculty and all of the student support services and all of that. So one of the biggest challenges we have is we're currently this year we maxed out in terms of residence halls. We basically filled every residence hall and opened up every little house around campus that we bought over the years, and we had almost no beds left. And yet we have a little bit of capacity to grow. In fact, we're at about 550 students. We had a record number of first-year students this year, and I think we really ought to be more between 650 and 750 to be financially more stable. But we're maxed out on residence halls. That's our limiting factor right now. And so we are, I've been working with architects as well as others here on the staff, and we have a great plan for new residence halls. And so we're in a campaign now to build new residence halls. And so that's going to be a part of our just being financially stable as we grow there. We do have some great scholarships in particular. We're talking about to an MB audience. We have something called the Tabor 20. Which is a scholarship that was created 2 years ago, specifically for students that are from MB churches. And the students need to apply by December 1st, which is coming up here pretty soon. And they need to go through a little bit of an interview and campus visit process. And then that's one of our top scholarships that we offer. It's very generous, and it makes it very affordable for students coming from MB churches to come to Tabor. And that just reflects the partnership that we have with the MB churches, that I view Tabor College as an extension of their young adult ministry. We are a part of the church ministry. We just happen to be located in Hillsborough, Kansas, but we very much want them to send their students here, and we want to send those students back. We want to send them back equipped for vocations, but also equipped to serve in the church. Whether it's running the soundboard or preaching or teaching or helping with the accounting and running the business side of a church, we want to send them back with skills that they can really participate in the church. And so the Tabor 20 really reflects that. One of our biggest challenges is so many of our scholarships are unfunded. So it's just a discount, and that's the way most colleges are. Mm-hmm. And so that makes it hard to balance your budget. And so being able to fund, we'd love to see more people giving towards those scholarships so that we can afford to offer those to more students.
That's important. And just because since Sterling is very similar in a lot of ways, I know what that college experience is like. And I feel for you and people who have to make budget decisions, because students expect for you to have a great football team, a great theater program, the dorms better be really nice. So the students have a lot of expectations for high quality across the board. So how do you balance that? And how do you make decisions on what you're prioritizing, what gets elevated?
Prioritization is exactly the word. I use ruthless prioritization. Sometimes you have to say no to something that's good and important because there's something even more important to focus on. And I feel like that's a part of my daily challenge. I'm on my knees praying to God, give us wisdom. Our entire team here is praying before meetings give us wisdom on what's the highest priority, where do we spend money, where do we have to hold the line, and always trying to evaluate that. Because you're right, expectations are really high right now.
Mm-hmm.
I compare it to 50, 60 years ago when somebody went to college. They didn't expect the dorms to be that nice. They didn't expect the facilities to be that great. But those expectations are so much higher now. And so, and we're doing a great job. The campus looks fantastic. If a listener hasn't been on Tabor College campus ever or in a long time, I encourage them to come and visit, come to the Messiah or come to a game or a performance or something. It really looks great. We do have some needs. Like I mentioned, some of the residence halls are aging and we need to grow a little bit. But a lot of our facilities are really in fantastic shape, and the campus just looks great.
Okay, another question I had was, I know that in recent years, Tabor has done more and more with online and grad programs. Historically, it was kind of undergrad on campus, but a lot of colleges like Tabor are branching off. Do you see, is that kind of a big, important part of the future? Or where does that fit in your prioritization that you're working on?
We were just talking about that this morning. That is a big question. What's the future of online? There have been a couple of colleges that have really gone big in the online world, in particular Liberty and GCU, and they have these massive online offerings. And what's the place for small colleges to do that? We do have some online programs, and some of them are super successful. We just launched a new Master's of Education in Neuroscience and Trauma last year, and it has been successful beyond our imagination, and we think it's going to continue to be very successful. So we're very excited about that. We've got some online MBA programs that have done real well. We've had an entrepreneurship and innovation program that has done well in the past, but we, like many other small colleges, are seeing drops in our online enrollments in some of those programs, even though we're seeing some increases in some, as I mentioned. And we're not sure exactly what that is. It may be a fallout of COVID, that people are just done with online. They're tired of Zoom, and they don't want to do that anymore. And so we're reassessing the future of online and trying to figure out and be real careful with what programs we do offer online. Our in-person residential undergraduate is really the heart of the ministry of what we do. I really believe in that. Experience, those years of 18 to 22 are so formational and so important in a young person's life, as they're just figuring out who they are, what's their purpose, what do they believe. I think to be in an environment like Tabor College, where there's so much support and it's such a great community, it really is a phenomenal community, better than anywhere I've ever been, I would say, that it's so important to spend those years in a place like that, where you're really being nurtured. And so that still is a high priority for me, is making sure we have a great residential experience. And then these other things, as God provides opportunity, we're going to keep exploring those. And we are looking at, maybe a couple of new programs and seeing what makes the most sense.
Yeah, we had Dr. David Stevens on a few episodes ago to talk about that program. It was very interesting. So it sounds like a very cool program. So that's very cool.
Yeah, we've got a lot of great things happening in education, both there at the master's, but also at the undergraduate. We just have a new Education Commons facility that is just beautiful and really nicely done. And there's just a lot of energy around education right now at Tabor, as well as in our business program. That's our biggest major, and there's just a lot of energy in that program. And that's another area where we need to grow. It's time for a new business building, and I'd like to explore an entrepreneurship and innovation center with that. And so that's on the horizon, coming just around the corner, I hope.
Very cool. Well, that sounds all very exciting. I like it. You've been really generous with your time already. Before we wrap up here, just personally, I want to get to know you just a little bit more. So what other, do you have favorite TV shows? Do you listen to podcasts? What do you do when you're not in your office?
What do I do when I'm not in my office?
Other than, I know you're an avid listener of the USMB lead pods, of course, that's a given, but
absolutely, without fail. So since starting this job, I have not had much time outside of the workplace. But in general, I love spending time with my family. That's number one. My wife and I are just best friends, and we spend a lot of time together going on walks. We lived in Morro Bay, and we would play tennis and we would hike and really enjoyed that. It's a little more flat in Hillsborough, Kansas, and so we're not getting as much exercise. The elevation is not the same, but we do get out for walks and enjoy that quite a bit. I used to do a lot of water skiing, and that was a lot of fun, but my body's getting a little older, and that's harder. I enjoy getting out in the countryside as well. We've loved being here, seeing the fall leaves, and just Kansas has been really beautiful. We came and things were so green, coming from California where there was a lot of drought and things were very brown. It was really beautiful in July to arrive, and it was green. So we just loved getting out and enjoying the area here.
Well, again, like I said, you've been really generous with your time. Thank you for your time today. I'm excited to see all the good things that come out of Tabor. Welcome to the USMB family, and I'm just excited to see where you go from here. So anything else we didn't get a chance to talk to that you want to do before we close out today?
I guess I would just say that I'm excited to be back in the MB family. I've been away for a long time, and I've described myself as a bit of an insider and an outsider. That, I went to Tabor, I've got the connections, I've got the family who had gone to Tabor, but our journey has taken us to communities where there were not MB churches, and we've just been on this different route. And so I feel like I've been away, and so coming back now, I feel like I've got fresh eyes. In some ways, I'm connected, and I can be accepted by those who are connected as understanding the history and the legacy, and yet I can see things from an outsider a little bit, and that's been really fun. And with that, I guess I would finish with, I just am so impressed and so thankful for what a warm, generous welcome that we've received from the MB community, the Tabor community, the Hillsborough community, and then the extended community just welcoming us to Tabor. I'll always remember these last couple of months as just what a warm welcome and so much goodwill that was extended to my wife and our family.
Good, awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Well, again, welcome and congratulations on the new job. We'll be following with a lot of interest to see what all good things you bring to the Tabor family. So thanks again for your time today, President Janzen. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt.
Go Sterling.
Go Tabor.
Today's podcast is sponsored by Mennonite Central Committee. Share God's love with our global neighbors this Christmas. Delight your loved ones by choosing from unique gifts such as goats, clean water, fruit trees, books, and many more. Give at mcc.org/delight or call 888-563-4676. That's 888-563-4676 to learn more.
Well, as I said at the top, I will and always will be proud of my Sterling College days, but I really am impressed with President Janzen and really enjoyed talking with him. I'm sure you did as well. And so again, I want to thank President Janzen for spending time with us. If you'd like to learn more, I also mentioned in the episode that there's quite a few articles on the Christian Leader website. So if you go to the Christian Leader site and just search for David Janzen, you'll see a few of the interviews they ran with him recently. And I am just excited to see where he takes Tabor from here. And he actually mentioned one thing that I really liked, that one of his goals is for families from the MB world to send their students to Tabor so that they can send them back to their communities, educated and ready to serve both in the community as well as in the church. And so I really liked that aspect of it. And whether it's Sterling or Tabor or any similar school, I just echo what he said about just the value of a small Christian liberal arts education. It was so good for me. I grew so much in my faith, and in preparing me for my career, it was just a really good decision for me to go to Sterling, but they really are very similar schools. So I just think there's a lot to be gained when you go to a school like Tabor. So even though it pains me, this has been a fun conversation, and I really do like President Janzen and excited to see where things go from here. So, all right, well, hey, thanks again to you wherever you're listening today. Hope you enjoyed the conversation. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you again next time right here on the Lead Pods.
Thanks for listening to Lead Pods. Make sure you don't miss an episode by subscribing to our show wherever you're listening today. Learn more by visiting usmb.org. And be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We'll see you next time as we learn more practical tools to increase our impact together.